So today on Festive Franklins I'm going to show you how you can make this rather fabulous hat. So it's got ribbing around the bottom, really easy stocking stitch all the way up. So you make it as a long rectangle on 2 needles, and then you seam up the back, fold the seam into the centre, and then seam across the top. So honestly, it's really easy to make. It's a great beginner's project. And then a couple of little pom-poms on the top corners just look adorable. So this I made for my daughter. She's 11, and I would say this size would probably fit from about 8 or 9, maybe even a little bit younger, 7 or 8, up to probably a maximum age of 11 or 12. My daughter's got quite a small head for her age, so I'd say she's probably at the maximum size of it now. And the cast on for this size is 104 stitches. If you wanted to make it for a smaller child, so kind of under 7 or 8 years of age, then you could maybe go down to, you're going to want to decrease by 4 stitches. So if this was 104, you could either start with 100, or for an even smaller child, maybe go down to 96 stitches, which would make it just that little bit smaller. I would say probably 96 would be good for an age kind of 5-ish child, something like that. Okay, so I can't show you how to make the entire hat because this would last all day, but what I'm going to do is show you how to cast on, show you how to do the ribbing along the bottom there, show you how to do the stocking stitch, and then how to cast off, and then hopefully I'll make like a little mini version. I can show you how you seam up the back and across the top as well. So join me again in a second and I'll show you all the bits that we need to make it. Alright, so we're using a double knit yarn for this pattern. I've run out of the green. I've done so many Christmassy things, I'm totally out of green, so I've got this kind of blue colour instead. So we'll pretend that's green, and then white and red for the stripes of the hat. I've used 2 sizes of needle, so I start off doing the ribbing on a 3 3/4mm needle, and then I do the main hat on a 4mm needle. So we're going to start off with the ribbing. So we're going to take away the white and the red and the larger needles, and we're going to start with the 3 3/4" and the blue yarn in place of the green yarn. So for this cast on, you need to do a long tail cast on because the hat has to be quite stretchy around the brim. You want to do a long tail cast on for it, and I would say if you're casting on 104 stitches, you need to have probably about 1 metre of yarn. You may not need quite as much as that, so 1 metre would be about there. You may not need quite as much as that, but it's better to have too much than too little. The general rule is you need about 3.5 times the size of the thing that you're making as your tail of yarn. So if you're making something that's 20 centimetres wide as finished, then you need to start with about 70 centimetres of yarn. So for my small square today, I'm just going to take a chunk here. I'm going to make a slip knot, whichever is your preferred method. That's how I do mine. And then I'm going to take one of my needles and I'm going to put my slip knot onto the needle. Now I'm going to take my working yarn over to, my working yarn to the right and my tail over to the left. And then this is how you do a long tail cast on. So you're going to wrap the tail around your thumb, slip that onto the needle. Then with your working yarn, you're going to wrap that around the needle and pop the stitch off the top. So we'll do that again for you. I'll just try and get the camera to lock its focus so it doesn't wiggle around. There we go. So I'm going to put my thumb inside, slip that onto the needle and draw together to make my 3rd stitch. You've now got 3 stitches on the needle. So you're going to repeat that if you're making the size that I'm making for, as I say, 104 stitches. If you're going to make a smaller size, I'd probably suggest starting with 96 stitches. There we go. So you can use whatever long tail method you prefer. I'd normally do an old Norwegian cast on for this, but that's a bit more complicated than it needs to be. So I've got 8, 9 and 10. So I'm just going to do my little sample here on 10 stitches for you. All right, then you're going to turn around, take your needle, pop that inside, and then find your, not your tail, but your main working yarn. I'm going to take that over to the right, and then you're going to start with ribbing. And to do your ribbing, you're going to make a knit stitch. So you're going to come around through the middle, pop it off the top and over the edge, and then another one through the front leg of your stitch, around the middle and off the top, and then you're going to make 2 purl stitches. So to make a purl stitch, you're going to bring your yarn through to the middle so that you're at the front, and you're going to go through the center of your stitch and hook it to the front, round, and again. Then I'm going to go back with my yarn through the middle to make 2 knit stitches, like that. My knitting needle will be a bit banging on the table. I'll just see if I can zoom in a little bit so you can see a bit better. So now to do my purl stitches, I'm going to bring my yarn through to the center front. I'm going to scoop that stitch from the middle, bring my yarn through, and then pop the stitch off, and again through from the middle round to the front and pop that stitch off. Then to make my knit stitch, my yarn goes back through the middle of the 2 needles into the front here and around and off, and into the front, around and off. So what we've done, if we have a look, is we've got 2 knit stitches. Then you can see the little bobbles at the front which make your 2 purl stitches. Then you've got 2 more knit stitches, and then you've got 2 more little bobbles at the front for your purl stitches, and then you've got final 2 more knit stitches at the end. Yeah, so we've done knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2. Then I'm going to turn my yarn round, or my needle round rather, and you're going to do the same stitch that you're looking at. So I can see here the 2 bobbles of my 2 purl stitches because I finished on 2 knits on this side, and when you flip a knit over on the back it's a purl, so I've got 2 purls here. So what I'm going to do to make my ribbing is do 2 purls into these 2 purls. So I'm going to go around the front and off, and then through the front and off. And now when I take my yarn back through again to the middle, I can see I've now got 2 knit stitches, and I'm going to do 2 knits into them. Back to 2 purls, back to 2 knits, come back through to the middle to do 2 purls. And that's how you do your ribbing. So you're piling like a ladder the same stitches on top of each other. So we've got purls next to knits, next to purls, next to knits, next to purls, and then when we turn it round, our 2 purls that we just finished on become 2 knits on this side, and so we're going to do knits here. Yeah, so those are the bobbles of our purls, so these are going to be knits. So you're just making sure if you see a knit, you do another knit stitch into it, and if you see a purl, you do another purl stitch into it, and they should be in pairs: 2 knits, 2 purls, 2 knits, 2 purls. Okay, and then once you've done a few rows, you can really see the ribbing start to take shape. It's a bit hard at first to see what you're doing, but once you've done a few, you can start to see them forming little kind of columns of stitches on top of each other. I'll turn it around again and we'll do the same thing. So now I've got 2 purls here, so I'm going to do 2 purls into them. Then through the middle to make 2 knits, back through the middle to make 2 purls, back through the middle to make 2 knits, that's my yarn, back through the middle to make 2 purls, 1 and 2. There we go. So you continue like that for 10 rows in total. So if I go back to my finished hat, hopefully you can see we've got knit stitches and purl stitches and knit stitches and purl stitches piled on top of one another, and the knit stitches next to the purl stitches give it that nice stretch. Yeah, so 10 rows of those, and then once you've done 10 rows, you then, because of the colour change, I do another row in the green of all knits. Yeah, so I'm going to do a row now still in my blue, pretending it's the green, and I'm going to do now all knit stitches all the way along, because when you change the colour, if you change your colour on a row above purl stitches, you see the colour change, which you don't want to do. You don't want to have a jagged colour change. So instead we do a knit row like that, then we turn around and we do another purl row, also in the same starting colour, which was our green, but today is blue because we just like to be a bit different. There we go. And now you've got a nice row of, when you turn it round, knit stitches to then do your colour change into, which is going to look much smarter than if you'd done them in the other. So now I'm going to change my needle size up to the 4mm needle, which is this one here. And the way you change your needle size, you haven't got to take the stitches off here or anything like that. You just literally knit onto the next size of needle, and then when you go back the next time, you knit onto the next of the bigger size, and then you're on the bigger needles. So to do your colour change, we're changing into white. You're going to take your piece of white, put your needle through your stitch as you normally would do to make a knit stitch, and then you're going to take your new yarn and you just loop it over the needle like that. And I like to hold it with the finishing tail of the previous colour like that, and then you make sure you've got your working piece of the new colour, not the tail, and then you start to knit just with the working piece of the new colour all the way along. There we go. And now we've changed over to the white, and you can see you don't get, because you're working into a row of knit stitches beneath, you don't see any jagged mess when you do the colour change. It looks much neater. So the other thing I like to do now is turn it over, go back to where I did that colour change, and I just tie a little knot in the white and the blue or the green there, just to stop them from coming undone. Yeah. Then in total you do with your stripes, you do 6 rows of the white and then 6 rows of the red, 6 rows of the white. You do your colour changes as normal, as I've just shown you. And then, so now I'm going to take my next bigger needle and I'm going to work back along purl stitches on this row. So this now is stocking stitch. When you're doing a row of knit followed by a row of purl, this is stocking stitch. So I'm going to work back along doing purls all the way along. There we go. And then turn over again, and you can see now how you've changed to the white. Yeah, so that's 2 rows of white. You're going to do 4 more rows of white, then you would change to the red, do another 4 rows of red, and keep going until in total, if I can get this around the right way, and I'll zoom out again a little bit so you can see. So in total we do 6 rows of white, 6 of red, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 up to here. Then you go on to the white and you do another 6 rows of the white up at the top. Yeah, and then that's it. Then you can cast off. So to show you how to cast off, I'll do that for you as well. So to cast off, you're going to want to cast off when you're about to do a knit row like this. So your last row was pearls, this row is going to be knit. So to cast off, you're going to find the right bit of yarn and that bit, and you're going to do 2 knit stitches. And there are lots of ways of casting off, but this is the easiest. And then you take your first stitch and you slip it over your second stitch. Oh, let me zoom in again so you can see that a bit better. So you're going to knit another stitch till you've got 2 stitches on your right needle. Then you take this and you loop it over that one and release. Again, you're going to knit 1 more stitch, and then you're going to, my knitting needle keeps hitting the thing on my camera, you're going to loop that back over there all the way along. So you knit a stitch and then you slip that stitch, the back stitch on your right needle, over the top and over. And this is how we cast off, like that, all the way along. There we go. So that's our knitting cast off. And then what you do to finish is grab your scissors, chop that, and I normally leave a good long tail, so like 30 centimeters of tail for me to sew it together with. And then you're going to take that tail and put it through the loop, and then pull, and that tightens up and finishes it off. So here is a very miniature version of the hat. So once you've got your hat, it's going to be one big rectangular piece. So again, if I zoom out, and I can probably show you on a piece of paper like this. So this, say, is our hat when it's finished, except it probably looks a bit more like that. It's like a long rectangle. This is your ribbing along the bottom, and then these are your white and your red stripes all the way up, and then you've just cast off along the top. So you've got one long rectangle. So the way to join it together is to join the 2 short ends together, and then you sew it up along the edge. And the way to sew it up is to use a darning needle like this, which has a large eye for your yarn to go through, and a blunt ended tip, and you just do a very simple stitch all the way up the edge to join them together. And then once you've done that and they're joined, you press that seam towards the back of the hat and you turn it over, and you do the same thing along the top. You sew along the top, and then you can just flip it right sides out, and as you can see, or as you can't see because I'm fairly good at joining, that's my seam here along the back. So that's the seam where I've joined it together, and then along the top, a bit more visible, and you can see that along the top of the hat. So you turn your rectangle into a square, and then if you want to, you can add some rather fetching pom-poms onto the corners, and that's it, you're done. Very Christmassy. My daughter absolutely loves it. Anything with a pom-pom on is an absolute winner. So there we go, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon. Bye.